Hi YouTubers, my name is Pastor Ryan Rouse and welcome to another one of my videos. This is my day 8 reflection on my journey with Dietrich Bonhoeffer. As I look at today's reading, it's definitely kind of a tie-in to what we've been learning the last couple days, as we've been looking at being grateful for our possessions, as we've been looking at not storing up treasures on this earth, because in a sense, if we store up our treasures, they could kind of spoil us. Sometimes our possessions can spoil us. Just like that manna rotted in the wilderness when the people stored it up for themselves. As we look at the story of the Israelites in the wilderness, the same thing can happen for us. Well, the reading for today, Bonhoeffer talks about the disciples. And he says the disciples are basically poor. Like they have nothing. They don't have property. They don't have community. They don't have homes, kind of all sorts of things. I disagree with Bonhoeffer on one of those things, and I'll share that in a moment. But this idea that, in a sense, the disciples, their lives are transformed by following Christ, but things change for them. They kind of experience an emptying of themselves, like an emptying of their stuff, even stuff, maybe even things that they know perhaps, because we see that they're transformed later, especially when they encounter the Spirit of God. All of a sudden, it seems like they're new guys, But anyway, the Bible passage for today is from Matthew 5:3, and it's, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Now, looking at the reflection questions, it says, reflect on why you would consider yourself poor as a disciple of Jesus. Could you imagine yourself ever seeing poverty as a gift? Now, I don't think I consider myself poor as a disciple of Christ. Am I rich? By no means. I am a pastor and I live on a pastor's salary. But as I think about money, as I think about the stuff that I have, and as I think about living in the house that I live in and the car that I drive, etc., am I rich? No. Am I poor? No. I've been to third world countries. I've been to places like Mexico, and I've been to the Dominican Republic and to Haiti, and my eyes have really been opened. I've seen what poor looks like, so I wouldn't say that I'm poor by any means. But I will say, like the disciples in our text, I have experienced an emptying, if you will. I remember in seminary, it was almost like I experienced an emptying of the knowledge. My experience, at least in seminary, at least my first couple of years, was kind of, you get torn down, you don't know what you think you know, and they kind of empty you of some of your knowledge so they can kind of fill you back up and teach you the things they want to teach you. Was part of my experience anyway. And I think the disciples kind of experience the same thing. They leave their homes, they leave their families, in some cases their actual property, and give that up, and they have to learn to trust God. It's almost like a wilderness experience, if you will. This past Sunday I preached on Jesus in the wilderness. Jesus is in the wilderness for 40 days, being tempted by the devil. And that's kind of similar to the Israelites' experience. They're in the wilderness because they're having to learn to trust God, and talk about having no homes, nothing of their own. Look at the Israelites and when they're in the wilderness. And so, the disciples, I guess for me, as I look at today's reading from Bonhoeffer, the disciples are experiencing the same thing. It's like they're having their own wilderness experience, because they're having to learn to put their trust in God. But getting back into my reflection, I don't think that I'm poor. Again, I said I'm not rich either. And then it says, could you imagine yourself as ever seeing poverty as a gift? Well, I guess, getting back to what I said about visiting people in third world countries, I've seen that I've seen poverty as a gift. And the reason why I say that is because I remember preaching in the Dominican Republic, and at one point in the service, the people gave. They gave their offering, and I have never seen people give offering like that. I mean, they were joyfully giving and happily giving, and these people had next to nothing. And I think it's because, when you're poor, when you don't have anything, it's times like that when you really learn to trust God, when you put your faith and your trust in God. Because you can't help but do that. Opposite of that is, if you're rich, and I don't want to stereotype everybody that has money, but if you have lots of money, and if you have everything you could ever want in life, why would you need God? I'm just saying in general. I guess for me, it's a lot easier to want God and need God and to put our trust in God and depend on God when we're poor. Because when we're rich, all that stuff, all our possessions, all our things, that can take God away from us at times. Again, I'm not saying this is true for everybody, because I do know people that have money and still have strong faith in God, still have a strong reliance on God and a good love for God. So please bear with me there. Like I said, I've seen poverty as a gift in that it does help us rely on God more. And when we experience an emptying in our lives, that can be transformative too. And it's during those periods where, again, we have to rely on God. I think back to before I moved out here to Wisconsin. We had to uproot our lives from living in Nevada and Las Vegas, where my wife had her family. My dad was a few hours away in Arizona, as well as my sister and everything. And we had friends there, and we picked up everything, and we moved all the way out here to Wisconsin. We didn't have a home. We found a home, but we had to find a home. We had to make new friends. We had to establish ourselves in the community a little bit, and my wife had to find a new job. So it's times like those where you really, man, I'm telling you, we really were trusting and relying on God. And we still do that now. I want to say that. I was thinking that I argued with Bonhoeffer. I had a little bit of a disagreement in my reading with Bonhoeffer. One of the things Bonhoeffer does say is he says, they had no earthly community to which they might belong. And I got to say, and I think it's okay for me to disagree with Bonhoeffer. We all have our own opinions. But didn't they have a community with one another? They go out 2 by 2 as a mission. Christ sends them out 2 by 2 to minister and to talk about God and to preach and to do healing and cast out demons, etc. But then we see they have a community with one another. That community is very evident on that first Easter Sunday when they're behind locked doors, but they're together. So for me, I like to say they did have an earthly community as disciples, as followers of Christ. And they created community. So I guess I just didn't understand what Bonhoeffer meant when he said they didn't have community. All right. Wow, my videos are getting longer, but that's okay. I just got to share what my thoughts are. And anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Thanks again for joining me, and blessings to you on this Lenten time of the year. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.